I'm back. All right, let's go. We're gonna go through chapter one. And if you're wondering, this picture right here in the background, that is a Ferris wheel. That's me at Coachella, a friend of mine. And it really looks like there's like it's more of a picture wall about my friend, my German friend, which is kind of funny. But whatever. There's more other pictures too. There's up top there. There's Enrique. That was a dog earlier, and then there's bad glare there. That's me. And then that's my wife. Oh, look, I did it. My wife's mom, and her new father-in-law, or our father-in-law, just after they got married. This is my wife's grandmother. She passed away. Who's behind me? Oh, that's me. That's right. It's me and my wife. I did really well for myself getting married. I mean, she's way too good for me. And then over here is just the family at Christmas in New York. And then oh, this is our dog and cat when the cat was alive. The cat is now taking a very long nap. Means she's dead. And then that's just family too. So anyway, all right, let's get into this. Let me share my screen and get in chapter one. All right, let's go slideshow. I'm gonna do like this. No, I'll play from the start. Okay. I already asked you these three questions, so look at how much ground we're already covering. Isn't that great? Yeah. The Kardashian Jenner local team won the NBA championship. Name of the shoe and clothing brand started by Kanye West. Boom. Second set of three questions. You already answered these. The point of those questions, like I said before, is so that you know a little bit more about money and your finances moving forward. So why is money important? I mean, if it was up to me, we'd have a society where it's instead of using money, we use gummy bears or something, and the reds are the most worth the most. The yellows are probably the worth the least. But why is money important? It is very important. Why I think two main things are to have a certain standard of living. Doesn't mean you have to be living, high on the hog or anything, but you just, there's a saying that, money doesn't buy happiness, but it can, it makes some problems go away at times. So money is important because it can dictate your standard of living. Okay. I cannot tell you or teach you how to make a lot of money in this class or what kind of jobs to get. I can just kind of tell you a little bit how money works and how your finances work. And then why also money is important because you can accumulate wealth, right? You can start accumulating wealth through your investments, through investments in the stock market, investments in property, investments in stock and bonds, and all those kind of things. So money is definitely very, very important. How do you get a better standard of living? Simply put, earn money and effectively manage your money. How do you accumulate wealth? Earn money and effectively manage your money. It's the same answer. Now, we'll get into things about, there is definitely a psychological component of money in your relationship with money. And sometimes the people who make the most money are not the best with money. Sometimes there are people who don't make a lot of money and they're really good with money. And also doing well with money has more to do with your psychological connection with money than raw intelligence also. Sometimes some really smart people do some really dumb things with money, and that's okay. And speaking of, I don't say I said dumb things, but so I can't, the ketchup's already out of the bottle with that one. But it's very easy to, I say, money shame people for making bad decisions with money and their finances. But I think you need to understand is that most people make the best, they try to make the best decisions they can at the moment, given their situation. So you might be, look at some people, and say, oh my gosh, that person did such a horrible job with their money. I'm not going to take any advice from them, or they're a loser, or they're a failure. No. People don't intentionally try to put themselves in a bad situation with money. It's just kind of, like I said, you make the best decisions you can at the time, given the circumstances. Median versus mean. This is kind of a term, somewhat basic term, but something's good to know moving forward. Median versus mean. Mean is basically the average. So when you see somebody says, okay, what is the mean? You have the number 2 and the number 5. what is the mean? How you calculate that is you add 2 plus 5 is 7. You divide it by 2 because there's two numbers there, and you get 3.5. So the mean or the average would be mean. Let's say you had the median is the middle number. So let's say you had 2, you had 5, and then you had 4. So if you add those up, what would that be? 2 plus 5 plus 4, that's 7, that's 11. 11 divided by 3 is what? I don't have my calculator on me. You guys are probably doing this faster than me. It's embarrassing. 11 divided by 3 is 3.6. 3.67. Okay. 2, what did I say? 2, 4, 5. The median, it would actually be 4. That's the number in the middle. Where do you see, that's a horrible example, but I think you'll get the point. So whatever that middle number is, where do you see the median and mean used a lot? Mainly median is when they say housing prices. It's the median housing price is, you know, $782,000. That just means they have, you know, 200 and something housing prices, and they started from low to high, and whatever house is smack dab in the middle is the median. If you added those up and you divided it by how many homes there were, the mean might be a little different. So just know that the difference between the median and mean, it's just something kind of a fun little thing. Financial goals. Oh, I love this saying. I use this saying, and I teach a marketing class too. And I teach, we talk about this. This is a great saying, not just for your finances, but for everything. Financial goals. A goal without a plan is just a wish, right? Meaning the how is more important than the what. We can all have goals, not even financial goals, but any type of goals. If your goal is to, hey, I want to lose, 12 pounds, that's awesome. The goal is, hey, I want to meet that special someone. That's great. That person goal is, I want to transfer to a four-year university. Awesome. Good for you. Congratulations for having those goals. The thing is more important than the goal is how you're going to get it. So the how is more important than the what. Okay. The execution, how you're going to execute that goal. So like I said, goal without a plan is just a wish. You need that plan to make that goal a reality. So I just love that saying. You can apply that to just about everything. And we'll get into like some financial goals and stuff later. SMART goal. Oh, I love this one too. This is a good one. Isn't fun. I'm just kind of, I just really love the material that I teach. SMART goals. These SMART goals are goals that are specifically, that's the S, the M is measurable, the A attainable, the R realistic, and the T timely. I don't know, I haven't made the exam yet, but sometimes I'll put on there, just put together a SMART a financial goal. And that would be, a wrong answer would be, I want to make $1 million. Okay. A right answer would be, I want to make $1 million in the next 10 years by getting a job, making an investment, getting a job, making $70,000 a year or whatever, make some investments, work my way up the ladder from that company so I can gradually increase my salary, buy a house, sell a house, have some investment properties, be invested in the stock market. Because if you say, hey, I want to be worth, at $5 million in the next year, and you don't have a job, and you don't have any prospects, and that's kind of maybe a little unrealistic, So it has to be specific. Make sure it's specific. It's something that you can measure too. There's some kind of like a measurable. So there's a measurable. That's usually you can quantify it generally with a number. Attainable and realistic are kind of overlap. Make sure it's something that's attainable and realistic by saying, you know what, I want to save $3,000 in the next 6 months so I can have a down payment for a car. By being on a strict budget, getting a job, working extra hours. That's a realistic, smart goal. But just to say, I want to get a car in 6 months. Great. How the heck are you going to do it? And then timely. Make sure there's a timely element to it, so that you can kind of hold yourself accountable a little bit. This is kind of an overview of what we're going to cover. So we're going to go over just kind of some broad strokes here. The plan to achieve your financial goals. We're going to talk about asset acquisition planning. Which kind of assets? Liquid assets, and it's just funny. I had the little water drops. Didn't even think about that. Liquid assets, which would be cash, savings, money market accounts, investments. Basically, liquid assets. If you don't know what liquid assets are just any assets that you can convert. They either already are cash, or you convert those into cash pretty quick. That's what you're saying is your cash is liquid. So when you say when you say you have a lot of liquidity, that means you have a lot of cash. What is not a liquid asset? Property, because can you pay a bill? Like if you had to, something came up and you had to pay something really quick, could you sell that property like that? No, you couldn't do it. So there's some personal property, for example, cars. You might be able to sell it quick, but there's a process there. But liquid assets are just assets that are either it is cash or it can be converted to cash pretty darn fast. So there's liquid assets. Investments, we're getting into stocks, bonds, mutual funds, all those kind of things. Personal property, which is like any movable autos, household furnishings, appliances, clothing, jewelry, home electronics, all that kind of good stuff. And then real property. Whenever you see real property, that generally has to deal with real estate, okay? Not as opposed to fake property. That can be land, homes, investment properties as well. We'll get into a liability and insurance planning. Like, what is a liability? A liability basically is anything that you owe, debt, anything outstanding you're responsible for. Outstanding is a really funny word because in the regular world, outstanding is like, hey, this is great. This is outstanding. There's a good connotation to that. In the finance world, outstanding is not always that way, because it's like if you have an outstanding debt, that's not like you have an excellent great debt. That it is outstanding that you owe on that. So that's a liability. So generally outstanding in the financial sense, not always positive. It's like what's the word? Terminal. Terminal is either something that's going to kill you, or you go to an airport and you wait in the terminal before you go have a good trip. We'll also talk about insurance. What's the purpose of insurance? Indemnification, big word, important word. That indemnification, it makes you whole when something unforeseen happens. So that's the purpose of insurance, is to indemnify you. So if you ever talking to an insurance company, you had having a problem with them or a claim or something, say, I just want to be indemnified. And they'll know exactly what you're talking about. They'll think, well, this person's kind of smart. They know their way around insurance. So we'll cover that kind of stuff. Savings, investment planning. Initially, it's to have an emergency fund. We'll get into like what should be a good amount for an emergency fund, and then transitions into creating a nest egg and wealth and growth for your retirement and your for your retirement. Employer benefit planning. We'll get into 401ks. If you don't know what a 401k is, that's fine. You'll get educated about what a 401k is. Pensions. If you don't know what that is, we'll talk about that later. Profit sharing. We'll talk about all these kind of things. We'll talk about healthcare, paid time off, all these kind of things that you should consider and look at when getting a job. And if these type of benefits are offered, we get into all that kind of stuff. Get into tax planning. Simply figuring out how your earnings are impacted by your taxes. Get into tax evasion versus tax avoidance. One is legal, one is not. One is using the existing tax laws to your advantage, and that's why they're set up. That's why the laws are that way. Another one is basically not paying your taxes. We'll get into that. We're getting retirement and estate planning, get into IRAs, individual retirement accounts, SEP IRAs, self-employed individual retirement accounts, and Roth IRAs as well. So we'll get into that kind of stuff. Remember, this chapter is just kind of an overview. With special planning concerns, managing two incomes. When you have two incomes coming in, you have a couple. It's the best way to manage those incomes. Managing employee benefits, because not all employers are the same, can have a huge impact on life decisions. You can have, and some people, they stick it out with a job because the benefits are really good for one company, for one spouse, and not for the other. Talk about that kind of stuff and that importance. Managing in tough economic times. We'll get into that too. The better you are prepared and plan, the less painful tough times can be. Was it Coach John Wooden said, uh, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. We'll talk about recessions, the financial crisis, the COVID-19 situation, and also realize, there's only so much you can do. I mean, as far as planning, sometimes things are just too big for you to control, and don't beat yourself up in those situations. But that should be motivation for that. When you get to the other side of all this nonsense, you'll be in a better position. I have absolutely in the past fallen on my face. I've had some big failures in the past with businesses and stuff. But you know what? It just feels so much better when you get back up and you get on the other side of it. And nothing is permanent. Nothing's forever. And just know that and it's all part of your journey. This is, like I say, it's all part of your journey. It's all part of your story. And every time and I probably have this in a future lecture, I say it and I'll probably say it again, is that every time you have to make a big change in your life and you think it's the worst possible thing that could happen to you, in the end, in the big picture, it's your honest to goodness believe this, is that you're just putting yourself one step closer to where you were meant to be anyway. So, and there's COVID-19, horrible, terrible. The obvious, the health implications, and we've lost a lot of people to it. The financial implications have been, pretty rough as well. People have lost a lot of jobs, but we will get through this. We'll get on the other side of it. And it's going to feel so much better when we do. How to survive a huge financial crisis. Spend less than you earn. Okay, here's something, like when I went to graduate school, I got my MBA at Chapman, owned businesses, went back to school, got my master's, never thought I'd get into education. Had businesses and stuff. And then somebody kept on pushing me, you should teach. And finally I talked to somebody and I was stunned. They offered me a job. And I went into it not even thinking it was an interview. I thought we were having a conversation. In the conversation, they said, I think we can get you some classes. Called my wife later and I said, how'd it go? I go, Jules, I think we're good. I think he offered me a job. She's like, what do you mean? He said I can get you into some classes this next semester. And she says, yeah, dummy, she offered you a job. So, but when I was it's a roundabout way of me getting to this point here. If you see the difference between macroeconomics and microeconomics, macroeconomics is just like, how, economic policy and how, you can change interest rates and the flow of money and using the Federal Reserve banks and how that really affects the economy as a whole, right? That's macroeconomics. And that's really actually interesting stuff. If some of you are thinking economics, that major is kind of boring, it is not. It's really interesting stuff. And they tackle some really, really fascinating topics. And microeconomics is basically, we all do microeconomics. You might think, oh my gosh, this is microeconomics. It's really challenging. This class is basically a microeconomics class. Essentially, microeconomics is don't spend more money than you make. That's it. That's microeconomics, okay? So how to survive a huge financial crisis, spend less than you earn. Seems simple, sometimes it can be challenging. Keep investing. Don't stop investing. Keep investing. We'll get into investing a little bit later. Know where you are. Have a realistic, be realistic about your position where you are, and always plan for the unexpected. And we said emergency fund a couple of slides ago, 6 months cash. So whatever you make, you should have 6 months stashed away in cash, at least 3, then 6. And listen, there's going to be some times I'm going to say, okay, here for you should have this much in emergency savings, this much in long-term savings. You should be spending this much on insurance. I know you're not going to all have it and be able to do it all right now, but it's just, if you can think these things through more than you did before, that's the goal of this class. Okay. You're not going to be able to check every box that we're going to talk about in this class, but just as long as you you're more aware of financially what you could be doing and what you can start doing. So, and as far as starting investing and saving, do it now. There's no better time than the present, right? I always like to say that there's this to the Jersey Boys. The Jersey Boys was this movie. Actually, it's a musical. It's pretty good. And it's about Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, an old band from like this, probably the 50s too, 60s, 70s, 56, late 50s, probably early in the 60s and 70s. And there are these guys from Jersey, hence Jersey Boys, and they are in the band. There's Frankie Valli, the Four Seasons, five guys in the band, and they're about to make it big, about to get their big break. They about to make their big break, but one of them gets arrested, goes into jail. So they have to kind of put everything on pause, right? Goes in jail for a few months, right? And they okay, this thing's gonna happen. As that guy's getting out, they think it's all right, we're good to go. Another guy gets arrested and goes into jail. So in the play, they said, you know what? Things can never be. What they learned from that was that you can never be down forever. Meaning, it's like things are never going to be always just be awesome, just great, just growing. You're going to fall on your face at some point. Also, conversely, things are never going to be bad forever. So just when you think things are just going to be bad and horrible forever, keep fighting. Things will get better. But just when you think things are that you can never make a mistake, you're going to land on your face and something's going to happen. And that's okay. That happens to everything. Because I say, hey, listen, I say United States, the USA stands for two things: United States of America and you start again. We all have to start again at some point. So now I got you ready to run through a wall or something like that, huh? You want to run through a wall that motivates you? I can make you run through a wall, a really thin wall. But the planning environment. Three main players in the planning environment or contributors would be the government, which is a federal, state, local government. Both cost and give money to the economy, meaning you're going to pay in taxes, but they're also going to provide jobs as well. Businesses, they provide and they have cost as well. So they provide jobs and they have costs. They give money to the economy, but then there's cost associated with it. And then consumers, people don't realize this. Consumers, we're the most powerful with the flow of money. We determine the kind of goods and services provided by government and business. We really are the powerful ones. Sometimes it feels like we're not, but we are really the powerful ones in the economy as a whole. And then here's the economy. This is the macro stuff I just talked about. The monetary policy, basically controlling the amount of money in the circulation, the money supply, to stimulate or moderate, to either stimulate or kind of do some kind of quantitative easing on the economic growth. Higher supply of money, that generally equals lower interest rates and vice versa. And fiscal policy is just when you start talking about spending and taxation. So this is the macro stuff I talked a couple of slides ago about. I didn't realize I was going to talk about it twice, but sometimes I just get talking. This is good stuff. Economic data report. I'll see if I can share that with you. There's this thing called the economic data report, and it comes out every day basically. And that's kind of where a good indicator of where the economy is, where the markets are. Markets meaning just like this financial markets, investment markets, and that's a good determination of where the stock market's going to go. We'll talk about the stock market a little bit more. Is the stock market always a dialed in representation of how the economy is doing as a whole? Absolutely not. Okay. But it can be a decent indication of how corporations are doing. Does that mean they're going to take care of the little person? Nope. They don't have to. They're not legally obligated to. First time I took like an advanced corporate finance class, first thing they teach you is, hold on, I'm going to turn this. We got the gardeners are here. So hold on a second. Sorry about that. If you take like an advanced corporate finance class, one of the first things they'll tell you is that corporations, they do not have a legal obligation to the end user, meaning the consumer. They have a legal obligation. They are a function of and a legal obligation to protect shareholder value and profitability. So their obligation is not to, and if they don't do that, they're violating the law. So their obligation is to keep that stock price high. Okay. Excuse me. what that has to do with the economic data report, when that comes out, it's a good indication of reports and information that comes out that will kind of lead you to understand where the market's going to go up and go down. Actually, at Chapman, we're really good, really dialed in with the our economic forecasting, and we simply just send out little cards to purchasing managers at companies and find out kind of like, how they're doing, and then from that information with other information, we put together our economic forecast. And it's usually the most accurate in the country. Chapman and UCLA are usually neck and neck, and they do much better than even like the big investment firms, like like the Morgan Stanleys, all the big investment companies. Chapman is actually much better. Okay, but next, GDP means gross domestic product. That is just basically a sign or a sense of how strong the economy is. And how do you get the gross domestic product? How do you add that up? It's, of course, it is. And most of you, I know most of you probably know this. You just kind of ramble off this equation all the time. When you're in line at the grocery store, you just ramble off the C plus G plus I plus NX. That's gross domestic product. What is a C? Consumer spending. There's reports out there, tell you how much consumers spend on things and stuff. Government spending, how much the government spends on things, THANGS, and stuff. Investment, how much investment people are making, how much people are investing in the stock market. And then you take your net exports, which is exports minus imports. You add all those up and you get your GDP. That's which is gross domestic product, which is everybody wants, good, GDP growth. This is a really important one. Actually, this is something the really important thing to consider is inflation, prices, and planning. CPI, that just stands for the Consumer Price Index. That's generally about 3.22% traditionally and historically. On average, consumer prices increase by 3.22% every year. I suppose their purchasing power. What does that mean? That means if today you went and I gave you $100 and I gave you on the list of everything that's in the Consumer Price Index, and it's everything from milk, eggs, some groceries, some like durable goods, some tire or whatever it is. There's a pretty comprehensive list of things on there. If I give you $100 today, it will go up by 3.22% next year. Okay, so that next year, those exact same items would be, instead of $100, it'd be $103.22. The following year, it would go up by another 3.22%, right? So meaning that every year you essentially lose 3.22% purchasing power every year. Why is this important? Because if you got a job and you have to kind of consider, when are you going to make more money? When are you going to get a raise? If you're not making 3.22% more every year, you're going backwards. Okay. Can you make that up by having a better budget and cutting things out? Absolutely, you can. But just know that everything will rise by 3.22% prices year over year. That's why it's like, Starbucks, they raise their prices. One, because they want to make more money, because they have a legal obligation to their shareholders. And two, their prices go up too. And it's like, you go to McDonald's, there's, a Big Mac. I don't know how much a Big Mac is now, but I know it's more than it was, a couple of years ago. I'm sure there are days when you can get two for 12 cents or whatever deal they have going on. But just know that 3.22% is an important number. Just kind of wrap your head around that. That's it. Wow. So that's it, folks. Hold on, I just escaped there. That was chapter 1. You should see a quiz coming up on that, and that's basically how the class is going to go. You're going to have to, So here's the thing: if you like how I talk, you're welcome. If you don't, I'm sorry. So that's basically going to be the class. I'm just going to go through a lecture, put up a quiz, lecture, put up a quiz, lecture, put up a quiz, lecture. I know you get it by now. And then after 7, 8 chapters, the midway point, you get a midterm exam, and then you get a final exam after that. And that's it in a nutshell. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? It is very odd to see the picture of my friend Martin on both sides of my head. It's actually very unsettling, to be honest. So, um, but I think chapters 2, 3, and 4 might look just like this from that, and then after that, it's I have them already. I have them recorded from in a classroom. So, all right, that's all I have for you. You guys have a good day, good week, and I will talk to you soon. Adios. Scram.